I did some work on the operating system. Wanted to see where we can get with this game. It looks like 200, up to 250 frames a second. I don't know. FPS is kind of bouncing all around, but but the difference is it's very smooth. I don't even see tearing, even though I have frame sync turned off. And the HDR is incredible. Look at this. Man, I don't know if this recording, I don't know if OBS is going to catch all of this. I don't know if it'll capture effects. I can see lens flaring, a hint of something like a lens flare. There's probably a proper name for that. That's probably saying it wrong. Man, that's crazy. So I'm running Kubuntu 25.10, which is not a long-term. It's kind of like it's like a beta a little bit, I guess. I think it's a testing. Anytime you see the .10, like 24.10, 23.10, those are short term. They're testing out the new features, and that's what I'm running. So and usually the 10 comes out first, so they work out the bugs, and then 26.4 will be another iteration of this. So that's how things progress with the Ubuntu series. Distro, excuse me. I really like Ubuntu, by the way. But, feel free to comment below. But I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna entertain a distro war. There are a lot of distributions out there they're all incredible. Any distribution of Linux that you like, that's the one you should be using. Okay, we're gonna put that on a postcard. But I stand by that. I stand by that. Now, Ubuntu, you say, well, it falls short in such and such. Okay, yeah, every distro will have something where it will fall short. But it's Linux. Do something about it, typically. So, I'm running Mesa 25.3.1, which is very new. I built it myself. It's not provided by Ubuntu, the Ubuntu. Like the repository, they don't provide it. So I took the source code, built it. I updated the tool chain, and you don't have to do any of this. I keep saying this. You don't have to do this to Linux. Don't get in the video and say, oh, you have to do so much and you have to learn so much and just to run Linux. Not true. Not true. Not true. Semi-true. Whatever. I've been doing this a long time, so the stuff that I do is pretty crazy. Look at the waves. Man, this game. This game really nailed the ocean faring adventure. I'll tell you what. I wish the map was bigger. The map is not big. Yeah. My friends won't play this anymore because the PvP element. It is optional now, but, you get restricted too much in the safer. Yeah, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful game. Absolute game. And we need more games like this. The attention to detail. Look at that. That's crazy. Crazy. And it's really smooth. And if I'm getting, 250 FPS, not reliably, but, if I'm getting this 170 reliably, that tells you that on a, not so high performance computer, it's going to do all right. And it will, because I used to play this game on a NVIDIA 1060 on Linux. you know, the Linux support for NVIDIA, not great. I was using their proprietary drivers. I ran the game just fine, but I remember. Oh, somebody's grumpy. A Pop-Tart. Okay, I don't need unhealthy food, none of which I eat. Yeah, this is. Look at the weather change. Look at that. Nightfall. So I can turn the sync back on, and I think it'll look. Yeah, that's have that on, but I leave it off in here just to test how far we can go with the FPS, or how high rather. Look at that! Wow, everything's changed. It was like sunny out, bright. We had lens flaring right here from the bright sun, and now it's dusk. It's they really the off in the distance it looks beautiful, and the clouds. Yeah, yeah, game excellent. So now we're hovering at 120, 119 because of the VSync. Good. I still don't have any tearing. I don't feel like I had tearing before. But yeah, so I did a lot to this. So what I did was I this is just for the nerds. If you're still watching and you're a gamer, pointless. It's going to be pointless here on out for the next minute and a half, okay? And I'm pre-apologizing. What's going on here? I updated the tool chain. That means everything that builds the software. GCC, the bin utils, so that, you know, the tool chain can recognize the, you know, new opcodes of my CPU, right? Because it is a newer CPU, a newer GPU, both fully supported by Linux. The AMD 9950X and also the AMD RX 9070 GPU. So I've built everything around that hardware. So what am I saying? So the tool chain was told to build the graphic drivers and the kernel, even the kernel. I built that. I built that from. Told it to build these to create a binary that is optimized for this specific CPU and GPU. And so we should get a FPS win out of that, in theory, you know. I also built from source Proton, but the problem with that is that Proton builds from within a Docker image, and so it's not utilizing all of my new fancy schmancy build chain. However, once Proton is built, installed, it doesn't use its own graphic drivers. It still taps the ones that I built. So we're still getting a win out of it. Not like this. I was hoping when I first started, but no, it took me a while to figure that one out too. I'm not a developer. Hey, what is this Docker shit? What is this? This is Docker image, and it's an. I think now they've updated. I think they're the Docker image that Valve used, based on Sniper. No, I don't know what they call this image. I don't think it's called Sniper anymore. I could be wrong, but it's based off of Debian 12, maybe 13. So the newest tool chain they have is GCC 14. Although one of the devs told me that he was able to build it with 15. Didn't explain to me how, because I annoyed them. Their argument is if they update too much, it'll make things incompatible for many games. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not a developer. I don't know how to fact check that one, okay? I know that when I update the toolchain, the drivers, the kernel, when I update all that, my games all run better. So, especially things like Star Citizen. Now that's something where Proton is not in the loop. Proton is not in the loop. I can build Wine from source, optimize it fully, and then all of the gains are reflected in Star Citizen. Whereas with Proton on Steam games, not really. No, there's some diminishing returns on that one. But, you know, the Proton team, they know what they're doing. Maximum compatibility, that is important. That absolutely is important. So I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just my own grumpiness. I want to be able to fully access the latest toolchain and fully optimize everything. And there are some limitations to Proton. But ultimately, Proton has done so much gaming on Linux. The Valve team, I wish I could buy them all coffee. I did look. I went to look. Like, I wonder if I could track these developers down and just send them a coffee or something, But didn't have much luck on that. Yeah, but yeah, I really appreciate them very much. Okay, so there's my latest. Hey, daytime? Man, that was a night. We were getting the HDR effect. That weather. Face coming? Yeah, that's pretty. Alright, well. Spent the night together in Sea of Thieves. Hey, thanks for watching this little video that was pretty much pointless, but just to let you know that Linux gaming has come really far. Really, really far. I'm told right now everything's working, just about like 99% of everything's working, or 95%, except things like Battlefield 6, where they're using some, like, deeply embedded into Windows, some sort of anti-cheat. And I respect that. You need to deal with cheaters, because they will ruin a game. But anytime you have a PvP game, listen to me, game developers, anytime you have PvP, you're going to have toxicity, which will then motivate cheaters and hackers. Sorry. That's just the way it is. You can change that. You can bring AI into it where it's humans versus AI. And then everything becomes about skill and cooperation. And let me tell you something, that will change everything. Because a human team versus an AI, they're not going to cheat. There's going to be, like, there's too much shame around it, Because it is ruining a game. It is not cool. But when you have PvP, the motivation to use the tools, use the cheats, are greater than the shame of using the tool. You know what I mean? There's definitely some psychology behind this. Definitely some anthropology, right? Right? How to use the technology. Think about it. So PvP is unfortunate. So therefore, something like Battlefield 6, which is intense PvP, the motivation is great to have the hacks, and so they have to take extra. So therefore, the game doesn't work on Linux. That's too bad. Really too bad. Now that I believe that will change. Give it some time because Valve is pushing for that the kernel entry, like literally an update to the kernel that would allow a kernel level anti-cheat. And I think that's cool. Now, I like it because I'm sure it'll be optional. You know, I can build the kernel and I can tick the box that says, do you want support for super toxicity, PvP, anti-cheat? And I can say yes or no. And if it causes performance issues or compatibility issues, I can say no. I can boot from a different kernel. I have a kernel menu that I boot from. You know, I can say, oh, I want this high performance kernel. Boom. So, because I'm building my own. I can also leave out things like debugging and tracing and profiling. I could completely eliminate all that. Just go and also reduce some of the security and just go for raw performance. So, you know, when you're building stuff from, have that in. But building stuff from source is advanced Linux stuff. There are certainly guides out there. You can get your feet wet with some small things, but that's something that I don't advocate very often because of the complexity. Okay, but hey, thank you all for watching this video.